All right. This is Impact Masters podcast in collaboration with Retort Podcast, recording live from Nairobi and Boston simultaneously. And today we have an amazing guest, Tim Bradley himself, joining us today. Tim Bradley is the co-founder of Pennant Video, a B2B focused agency that has pioneered the video marketing trifecta. It's a trademark to power mid-funnel marketing strategies. With nearly 2 decades of experience in video marketing, Tim has partnered with leading B2B tech brands like Cisco, Hitachi, Philips, and countless startups, bringing their story to life with compelling video campaigns. Before founding a Pennant, Tim was the executive producer at a large communications agency. In his 12 years there, he built, managed, and mentored a 25-person creative team while growing the business in competitive sectors such as tough tech, cybersecurity, and healthcare. He believes in creating work that cuts through the noise, methodical, yet bespoke, scalable, yet unique. Beyond client projects, Tim mentors aspiring creatives through workshops and portfolio reviews, reinforcing his belief that elevating new talent fosters a more innovative and story-driven industry. Tim has built an engaged following on LinkedIn by being relatable, authentic, and authoritative, with equal parts actionable insight and compelling storytelling, and the occasional dad joke. I believe today he's going to give a few dad jokes as we converse. Also, he believes in strongly in the power of community and mentoring, that connections mean more than just a numbers game, and that young creatives deserve the wisdom he has gained over a long and ongoing creative career. His philosophy is simple: create meaningful connections through impactful stories that resonate and endure. Outside the office, Tim draws inspiration from his love of snowboarding, family, and the outdoors, channeling the focus, adaptability, and persistence on the slopes into navigating today's competitive marketing landscape. When should a company introduce itself using videos? So today we're going to delve into a conversation with Tim. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Michael. Thank you for having me, and thank you for that very warm introduction.
Wow. No, I mean, this is quite an experience, and we're glad to host you today as our main guest. And here we just actually introduce movers and shakers in tech. We've been doing it for Africa, movers and shakers, and now we're covering some of the global movers and shakers. Telling the stories that really matter and sharing technology, information, and knowledge that really moves the needle when it comes to different aspects of life, as well as highlighting key innovators in the ecosystem. But without further ado, this is just what the official formal, who Tim Bradley is. But I know here we like going all the way back, who is Tim as a person? How was that team before it was formed to figure out marketing? You mind telling us who is Tim, where you're born, how was it growing up a bit, so that we get some background about yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah. So I'm the oldest of three boys, three brothers, right? And so my parents, we grew up in Western Massachusetts. So this very pretty remote town. It was about 300 people in the sort of foothills of some like very pretty mountains in Western Massachusetts, right? And so with that, it was a lot of nature, a lot of exploration, and therefore a lot of like imagination. So I found that my brothers and I were often, in our own little worlds, like creating characters, creating sort of stories and situations. And I was fortunate enough that my parents had and one of those oversized like VHS camcorders, right? Like the big video cameras from the 90s. And we got to use that to create, little videos and stories of our Lego sets, or of our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or of ourselves, right? So sort of that intersection of being able to explore and be creative and be sort of adventurous and storytellers, along with, having the ability to do some recordings and things, I think really started me down a path early, right, into video storytelling at large. Fast forward, I went to college for communications, and so that was a bit of journalism, like writing. I worked on the school paper or the newspaper, right? The bit of radio. I had a radio program every semester, and then video. There was several video classes you could take about documentary filmmaking or broadcast or just production in general. And so when I was sort of ending my time at college, it just seemed very, very clear that video was often the preferred medium. You're going to hear me saying that a lot. It was just, the medium that was having the sort of the best opportunities from as a professional, but also just for me, it just the creativity of video just really spoke to me. So yeah, with that, I moved to Lake Tahoe, California to pursue this sort of snowboarding, skiing, mountain lifestyle. Right. And with that, I did the classic thing of, opening my first credit card and, buying a camera and buying a computer so I could just be really like immersed, in the doing of creation. Right. And in video, just be very immersed in that. So looking back on that, it was, this sort of culture of skiing and snowboarding, and a lot of it is very very fluid, very, you're feeling very inspired. You're just sort of inspired by the mountains and the people, and there's no like right or wrong way to necessarily to do those sports, right? And so the combination of that with video just really allowed me to just like explore and learn all parts of the camera and how to edit a tight story, how to edit to music, like how to edit and conduct interviews and etc. So I really feel that those 4 years after college were even more like enriching, right? Because there wasn't anyone telling me, not telling me, there wasn't anyone necessarily like advising along the way, like in a college or in a school situation, but that freedom to explore really helped me realize this sort of like bounds or limits of storytelling and producing, right? And then from there, I when we moved back to Massachusetts, I found this job as a video production specialist inside of a public relations company, and that was really such an awesome opportunity to be that sort of first creative hire inside of a burgeoning agency, right? And that opportunity to continue with that autonomy and that sort of entrepreneurial spirit, as I'm realizing later, that like entrepreneur is the way I describe it now. I was there for 12 years and helped build a really robust team of creatives. We did motion design and animation. We did podcasting. We did live events and production and broadcast and all sorts of video across all channels, right? Like internal communications and employer branding, to social media, to live events, to recruiting, so really like so immersed in the medium was like the best thing for it. But then I also got to understand different industries, from healthcare and cybersecurity and climate technology and green technology and these sort of like always cutting edge innovative industries. And that really like spoke to me as like the person I am in this stage of my life, right? Maybe it's because I had a couple kids and I want a safer, more secure, sustainable future for them, right? But that's sort of what the combination of all those things, the skills, the relationships, the networking, the leadership, that just brought me the overall confidence to then launch what is now Pennant Video Company. And so as you outlined, we're a B2B focused, mid-funnel focused, which I'm sure we'll talk about, video marketing agency. So we use writing and motion design and live action production to produce really impactful videos that support marketing and sales teams in building out a robust buyer's journey for their audiences, right? Like our goal is to help empower decision making for audiences. And that sense of focus and the passion of all of those decades behind it, right, have brought me here today. So was that brief enough? Is that okay?
No, I mean, I also many questions, but definitely that was really comprehensive in terms of, understanding with Tim Bradley. overall. And in fact, today's topic would not really be out of the world. If 10 years ago we did this podcast around video instead of B2B marketing, that would sound like, what are you talking about? The expenses and all that.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, with the reels, shorts, and all these, video gatherings, attention span of everyone. There's no better time to discuss how these impact sales, marketing, as well as revenue. And I think we can dive right in. So, how did you just decide at the end of the day, this is it, and what research advisor before you said, okay, I want to, go to Pennant and start a Pennant video, have a team that actually offers this as a service or as a product?
Yeah, I love that question because a lot of it really centers around like a sense of like purpose and focus, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Again, like so much sort of love and affinity for that agency experience, but there is this saying that 1 year at an agency is like 3 years in house, the sort of like dog years equation, right? So that was really true, and a lot of it wasn't necessarily like burnout; it was more this sense of like lack of focus. So we were producing so much work for all sizes and scales of companies, from like
mm,
Kickstarter, earliest of foundation, to like Fortune 5, right? And then
yeah,
every channel, every sort of style and length of video. And it just got to this point where I was sort of losing the forest for the trees, right? Or it's just like I'm not sure the impact of this work that we're producing anymore, like in its broadest sense, right? So for
mm,
me, the intention of Pennant to be really mid funnel focused with a framework, that video marketing trifecta, that supports sales and marketing teams to build out that buyer's journey, was really the thing that helps continues to help me get out of bed every day. That like the work
mm,
that we're producing is helping decision making. It's helping these brands that have really important missions of safety, security, or sustainability. And so those set of values align with the focus of the craft and the message and the audience is really what's helped like synthesize our
mm,
business, right?
mm, mm.
But I love what you said about the 10 years ago, because it's totally true. Like when I was inside that agency as that video production specialist, YouTube was only like a couple years old, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it sort of
yeah,
speaks to how old I am now, but like that it was known as a place of cat videos, right? It wasn't like a place for business. It wasn't a place for, it wasn't attached to Google, as like the second most powerful search engine in the world,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So there's just been such an evolution and in my mind, like overall adoption of the medium, and certainly in marketing, right? Like marketers have
Mm,
not just come to learn, but just really like appreciate that while video is sort of challenging to conceive and produce and iterate on, like it just has such a important ripple effect across
mm,
their brand ecosystem, that like how they produce their creative. It's impactful to the recipient, the audience, right? Because they can just digest or take in so much more information because of the
yeah,
visuals and the audio, right? It's the most
yeah,
primed for storytelling. So I'm not trying to convince you. It's just more that like, yeah, it's just funny how in the 10 years, just video is so prolific, right?
mm, mm.
On all channels. And here we are today on a live podcast that's with video, right? Because there's that expectation.
Yeah, absolutely. They say if it's not seen, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. But interestingly, is that until today, 2025, different companies still believe in B2B, basically because of culture, trust, and how people have been used to closing deals. For you to get into this, video of a B2B, does it mean you replace, B2B or in person or, emails and all these other channels of sales and do away with it, or does video complement the already existing mechanisms?
Yeah, I would say it complements and amplifies, right? So if we're working with a marketing team or a sales team, it's like they have some sort of a message that they're trying to
Yes.
communicate repeatedly, right? So, it's one thing to have one person do it on a one-on-one engagement. Like ultimately, you want that human to human, but you also need to sort of scale it, right? And so video in its sort of like truest form is as
Yes.
close to a conversation as you can get, compared to any of the other marketing channels or mediums, right? So
Yes.
because of that, it's like we're always encouraging, well, if you're trying to express your brand's why, like why you exist, why your audience should care, why you're different, that is a great opportunity for a video, right? If you're trying to explain how your product or service works, like how it works and what it does and how it works, that's a great opportunity for a video. Then if you have customers and you want them to like validate what you do for them, right? Like that, who this is for and where set of story is really important, right? And so for us, like with the video marketing trifecta, that's effectively the point of this framework, is to express your brand's why and differentiate you from the competition.
Yeah.
Explain what you do, that demonstration of your value set, right? And then that endorsement, that customer story, that validation is the third prong of the trifecta.
Yeah.
So for B2B, like that clarity that you're, in the most engaged medium, a video, is really impactful, and it helps you build that buyer's journey to build trust from, why you exist, what you do, who this
Yeah.
is for, right? Like all of those touch points are really important to build trust, especially when most B2B selling cycles are like 9 to 12 months, so to have all these like really impactful touch points is a great way to differentiate from your competition.
Yeah. And interestingly is that, given the trends and even the way different businesses look like, besides on the Fortune 500, we have seen artists actually produce even TikTok music, which actually start with challenges and all that. And there are different strategies, of course, for business. And as an expert, how would you, say, to get the maximum return of investment? Is
Yep.
it driven by creating original content that addresses the business, or is it good to go with the trends, or is it just to break the mold and create something that is kind of outside the box? How do you go about this to get the maximum return of investment?
Yeah, man, I love that question. Because the the shortest answer is just sort of like all of it, but that's not a great answer, right? Like at the end of the day, like really looking at the brands, the business's mission and purpose, and like making sure that you're being intentional behind
Yeah,
that is usually the first, like that's your North Star, right? And like
yeah,
from
yeah,
there, you get a real sense of like, well, of course, this is who we're serving. Like
yeah,
these are our buyers, right? These are where
yeah.
our buyers exist. Like they're on these respective channels and these places. They're in these rooms. They're having these conversations, right? Like having all of that information is such a great bedrock for strategy to then how do you produce the materials to show up consistently, to be visible, to provide value, to help empower decision making, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes down to like the channels from there, like all of the channels have their sort of best practices, right? So you're saying YouTube Shorts. It's like, well, it's in the name, make it short. So that is like, it's much more approachable to have a single person show up with value every day, to produce a series of content. Like it's almost as close to like consumer as possible. But at the end of the day, it's like you're showing up, beating a drum, being visible, providing value. Like that is like the best sort of bedrock or intention or scaffolding of that
Yeah.
approach, right? For us, like we find that our best sort of partnerships with brands are the ones that are doing that internally. They have an internal resource that's taking care of or it not, and by care I mean like they're paying attention to those respective needs and channels of like of nurture specifically, that sort of bottom of the funnel, right? Like having that employer branding content, that recruiting content, that thought leadership content, the internal and external communications, like the social media, right? Like that is like, in my mind, a lot of a social media strategy, and video is a part of that. But having a small team or resources, or even just dedicated persons to that activity is such a great way to show up repeatedly in that space, right? Then you have your top of the funnel, like your advertising. Those are like your big splashes, your awareness. Like, someone's never heard of you. How do you make that first impression like really count, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's the middle, the sort of messy middle, right? And like that's where, as Pennant, like, where we like love to be, and because it has that most opportunity for impact in closing that gap, right? Like, how do you, like, that conversion, how do you make that shorter? How do you make those timelines more concise, right? Or at least predictable? You know, how do you build that journey for audiences? And so with that, like, production value tends to matter a bit more. Like your clarity and what your, you know, those key cornerstone questions you're trying to ask, like why, what, who, where, when, right? Those should be like really clear, really concise, and engaging, like whether in sort of like a humorous sort of way, or a way that it at least is aligned with your brand's tone of voice and mission and value set, right? So, you know, I just described an entire journey, but there's like a lot of complexity within that. So being really thoughtful strategically for each of those moments across the buyer's journey is really important. And it doesn't mean you have to do all of them all of the time, but you know, to really help build the layers of that funnel is really important.
Yeah. And in this aspect, you'll find that most companies actually will always try and do everything and anything. Is there a sort of framework? And if there's a framework, because at the end of the day, giving some sort of framework gives some clarity, regardless of whichever business that wants to do video. So where do you see the biggest gaps in a company's video marketing approach? And how can anthems, explainers, and endorsement? And you can actually delve further in these three anthems, explainers, endorsement, to tell us how do these fill out the gaps, and how do you go about it? You know, if there's a framework out there that really has worked, or how even Pennant comes into play.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the way I like to describe it is like, you've, as an audience member, you've been sold a click, meaning like you've become aware of some business that seemingly can help solve a problem or a challenge you're having, especially in B2B, right? Like there's many of them, but it's like you're looking for a solution ultimately.
Yeah.
And so with that, sorry, I went blank for a second. With that, once that click happens, it's directing you realistically to a website in most common experiences, right? How do you keep them there? How do you provide clarity? How do you build on that trust, right? And so having video front and center is a great way to do that. There's data abound that like having video above the fold on the homepage keeps people on site. The more time they're with you, the more engaged they are, the more interested and intrigued they are in your solution, right? So that's where the beginning of the video marketing trifecta starts, right? It's like they've been sold a click, they've arrived on your site. To expand a bit more on that differentiation, demonstration, validation of those types of videos is really, the other way I like to describe it is speaking to the heart, speaking to the mind, and then that sort of like that gut check of like trust before making a commitment, right? So the practically anthem videos are that mission, those values, that why you exist, why your audiences should care, your differentiation, right? That first prong of the trifecta. The second prong are those explainer videos, right? They demonstrate what you do and how you do it succinctly, clearly. They often speak to pain point solution sets, or like leaning into certain industry segments, right? Like how, like what you do and how you do it in a certain industry or category, right?
Yeah.
The third prong of the trifecta is those endorsement videos. they express who you're for and where. And that's often that customer testimonial, that case study, that customer hero video, right? That showcases and validates your solution through the voice and perspective of a customer, right? So these three prongs really build a strong foundation, and they build that buyer's journey. And that's that framework that we found is really successful. And from there, any of those prongs can have a ripple effect on the rest of your category or the rest of your brand, right? Like taking any B-roll or testimonial sound bites and like transforming those into other digital assets, right? Using them as social fodder. We've had a lot of our art from like an explainer video being repurposed into a trade show booth, right? Because that art is really impactful. So it's like the investment in those key assets is really critical from a marketing and sales standpoint. But then you're starting to build and compound on a robust library that can be used and repurposed throughout the sort of buyer's journey, right? But certainly at the bottom, to just show up consistently and repeatedly on those channels that you can be most visible on.
Interesting. And of late, we have seen different companies, including, iSecurity, which has always, for the longest, been a bit, secretive, not because they don't want to share, but because of the security involvement. You've seen safety. We've seen even military actually record some of the proceeding, as well as, some of the acquisitions in terms of capability. And all this is shared through videos. But also you have seen, companies and organizations in sustainability drive, face in video marketing, which actually shares more capability. Is there, a way of doing this video in a certain way that really resonates with the audience addressed? Or how do they do specialized storytelling that really compels the intended audience or customers to really relate to it? And how do they stand out? Because at the end of the day, if it's fundraising, everyone is fundraising.
Yeah.
If it's security, of course, it has its own issues. If it's safety, different companies offer different safety value or, such in the business. So how do they really stand out, and what should they focus on?
Yeah, I always encourage a couple things. Like one is someone should be paying attention to what the audience is looking for and desiring, right? And some of that can be in the analytics of your different social platforms or at your key events or talking to sales, right? Anyone that's on the front lines of conversations with customers, they are primed to help support your storytelling and video marketing initiatives, right? But like on the whole, you got to look internally too. Like if there's a message that you're either struggling to synthesize, or there's a moment of inflection. So like a company rebrand or a company launch of a product or service, or a sales kickoff or a customer experience event. Like these are really really important moments in time. There's a lot of attention. There's a lot of concerted effort internally, working in lockstep to support this moment in time. That is such a great time to produce video that is like of high impact, high value, right? Because it's that, we call it that flagship asset, right? Like that blue chip material that is such a great way to align the communication, align brand mechanics, and then it can be that ripple effect at the same time to like get your message out across your channels and across your audience segmentations. So it's sort of the cross section of those, right? Like someone needs to be paying attention to the needs of customers and their desires and what they need. That's inevitably happening in the business, right? But it's like someone's ear to the ground to the storytelling moments, and those are usually through the eyes and ears of customers, right? And then the calendar. What are those key moments that are happening in a calendar year, and how can we make the most impact in those moments? Video is that path, right? So I'm often encouraging a video first mentality, meaning if you're like, okay, we're going through a company rebrand, how do we lead with video? Because video is the most like complex medium. There's there's the message, there's the tone of voice, there's the brand, there's the words, there's the sentiment of like, you know, what is the music, what is the feeling, the vibe we want from this thing, what are the pictures or the images, you know, like it is perfectly complex. But if you put in the effort to produce that piece, it sort of invariably supported so many other aspects of decision making. Like, how do we say our message in 60 seconds or less, right? Great. That's going to have a great impact across all of your marketing and sales. How are we showing up visually? Great. That's going to really, you know, have an impact across your brand identity and how you produce your visuals for all your social channels, right? Like what's the tone? Like what's the mood we want to evoke here? That really aligns everybody in how they communicate this message, like in person or at events or on socials or in emails and all of it, right? And then there's that library where it's like you've produced this really impactful moment, this video. You can carve that up into static graphics. You can carve that up into animated GIFs. You can make shorter form versions. You can make vertical versions for social channels, right? So now you have a relative like campaign of assets that can be put into email, into social, into trade shows, into the hands of your sales force on their desktop, you know, for in-person or virtual meetings, right? So yeah, again, impact is a word that I use time and time again because it's the most sort of close to the moment, to what video can really do for a business.
Absolutely. And that actually brings me to the next question, which is around, you know, at the end of the day, people now are shooting videos using their phone, you know, using the minimum viable, gadget that is available. And, you know, at Trifecta, you guys offer it professionally. At what point do someone actually outsource this work to you? And why is it important for B2B to really, outsource this work to you? And in this case, why does it make it a critical difference in driving conversions, and focusing on that mid funnel? Because at the end of the day, there's always the awareness that is created and some activation that really goes thousands and thousands, but then you close maybe 10 or 20 businesses. So why is it important to either do it internally, or at what point do you, even if you're doing it internally, to outsource it to Pennant do this work for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that question. The challenge I always pose is like, or the thing that I always bring up is like, first impressions count, right? So if you're trying to make a really good impression on a buyer, right, like or a customer or a client, is you don't get many of those chances, right? And so when you're top mid funnel especially, right, like you want to show up with the right amount of care and the right amount of like respect for the audience's time, right? It's like, especially when it's fleeting and you're trying to build trust at each of those sort of rungs. So while it's like the funnel's sort of inversed. It's like you can do a lot of content at the bottom, but that's because you've already built trust, right? And people now just want to show up to see that they're supported, to learn more about your product rollouts and like the innovations that you're always working on, to see your people in action. And so that is totally fine for like a lower production value. It's more like getting your people to show up and build trust on that human to human level. But when you're further up, it's like less content, but more production value, right? Like you want to show the care and the respect you have for your audience's time when they're just trying to make a quick decision, or at least a like concerted decision on what is the best solution for their pain, for their problems, their challenges that they're having, right? So if you're one of a couple competitors, right, and you're showing up audience first, video first, with production value to show that you care about this decision making in this moment, and you're trying to give them the clarity and build on trust to go in your direction, then like, why wouldn't you invest in that way, right? Especially when it has that ripple effect across brand and channel and content marketing at large, right? So yeah, that's how I usually put it back in sort of my client situation, is have them consider, well, if they're the audience, how do they want to be
Yeah.
perceived, you know?
Yeah.
And so that care and intention and clarity, those always come together.
Yeah. I mean, that actually brings me another question that is very important. As you're speaking, I was thinking about it. You know, shooting the video content is the easy part. There is always the strategy, the planning, and what do you want to see. But
Yep.
that video is as good as it goes out and as it's promoted. How, how do you advise your clients to really go about it? Do they even set a budget for promotion? Do you actually include these in when you are, like, quoting? And do you help do it, or do you just say, here are your videos and these are how you share it, this is a strategy, this is the roadmap on how you share it? Or how does it go? Because yeah, I might have the best of the videos, but if no one sees them,
Yep.
they're just videos, right? So
Yep.
how do you go about that with your client, especially B2B? Because we know most B2B companies have marketing team, they have social media strategists, they have different arms of company. Now we see CEOs actually tweeting or sharing some of the captures. So how do you go about that to make sure that you're successful?
Yeah, I mean, it's the two prominent distinctions, right?
Mm.
Organic and paid. While we don't do paid in-house at Pennant, we have our partners to support that, right? And so
Wow.
that is like its own strategy, right?
Mhm.
But when it
Mhm.
comes to organic, it's it's assuring that what we're delivering is the most resonant on the channels that they're being distributed on, right? So it's like
Mm.
social media, great. Making sure it's shorter form versions, it's a variety of versions so they can A/B test. It's showing up with the copy that supports the video, right? Because there's often some copy and a call to action related to it, right? Like, how do you make sure that not just like fills a content calendar, but is like supporting the
Yeah.
conversion world we're living in from the mid funnel strategy, right? It's
Yeah.
also assuring that they have a playbook to be like, great, this is where this should live on your throughout your website. There's probably at least one, if not a couple places that this specific video can and should live throughout the
Mhm.
architecture of your website, right? It's
Yeah.
assuring that it's in a format and a file size that can be downloaded by people internally so they can use, in Zoom meetings, they can use on their iPad at a trade show or et cetera, right? It's making
Yeah.
sure that there's a version that at least has the branded closed captioning, if not like a text on screen animated version, so that those can play at trade shows, right? So it's really just making sure that and then it's having the animated GIFs that go into email to be distributed that point to the landing page or wherever the video is, right? So
Mm.
that organic distribution strategy, while not super complex by any means, it's just like we can come in and be like, hey, like we would advise you use it in this ways in these places, and also like share it more than once. You know what I mean? Like people,
Yeah.
it's not often that everybody's on that channel in that moment. So to like build it into your program, your
Mm.
content calendar, so that it can be repurposed consistently. So
Mm.
yes, that combination of organic and paid, and again, it kind of just depends on the moment. If this is a rebrand, a company rebrand, we're
Mm.
often encouraging some paid, because it's like you're trying to capture new audiences or new potential clients, right? While also like informing your current clients of like what this means in this moment to them as a customer. So it sort of just depends, I suppose, on like the purpose of the trifecta and like the content that you're creating in that moment, right? And then just the moment of the business and what you're trying to do and activate based on the work.
Yeah, and now we have seen emergence of AI. And this has impacted differently how the story is told, who is told to, when, how, in which language. Has this really impacted your strategy in how you build better, for your customer?
Yeah, I mean, AI, I have a lot of thoughts. All right. So like even for us, it's a really attractive shortcut, right? It's like
Yeah,
we can produce transcripts out of interviews. Like we
yeah,
can within our editing software, it can help us sort of shortcut a few things. But
Yeah.
the concern I have is when we have conversations with clients or customers, are like, well, let's just produce the whole thing in AI, or let's use,
Mm.
one of these AI video generators to do it.
Mm.
It's not that it's like wrong. It's just, is that shortcut gonna build trust with your audience? It always just goes back to trust. Like, in what you're producing, does that empower decision making by your
Mm.
audiences, and does it build trust during that moment, right? So yeah, it's all really attractive, and honestly, as a creative, it's like, wow, this is really, really powerful. But I think it's
Mm.
just like making sure that the intentions and the reasons for leveraging the image generation, right,
Mm.
is just really clear. And it's gonna, it doesn't, I mean, the adverse is that you produce something because it's a perceived sort of cheap shortcut or something, right? Is like, if that erodes the trust that you've worked really hard to build on to date, like, that's terrible ROI, right? So yeah, and I also sort of equate it to stock video, which is like, it has its purpose, right? Like, sometimes it's like you just don't have a way to showcase how something is working in the real world without, just take like military and defense, for example, right? It's like
Mhm.
you can't really showcase that in a lot of ways for so many red tape reasons, and that's
Yes.
fine. So your roots are like, go stock, or produce something that's new and novel and motion design or animated in a way, right? Or like, the gives a sort of impression of the thing you're talking about, and you're doing it with live action production.
Mm.
The shortcut with stock is that, well, you get it done and you can go to market and use it, but invariably a lot of your competition is probably using the same stock, right? Because this is a challenge in that industry. And so
Mm.
your buyer being like, well, this looks the same. This stock video looks the same as this other one. Like, this doesn't help with my decision making, and doesn't build on the trust that I want
Mm.
to have with this customer, or with this business. So yeah, so it's often just like caution combined with care, right? Just like making sure
Mm.
you're careful and provide
Mm.
and showing up with care for your audiences. So yeah, and I get it. It's like you're hungry to use this tool. You're eager to get it out there, to have it start working on your behalf, to compound your efforts. But yeah, it's not like one misstep or anything can ruin that. But it's just those small decisions in the creative certainly do have a long-term impact.
Yeah. And actually with trust comes authenticity, right? And in this case, you have to really tell your own story, and be out there, sometime vulnerable, sometime sharing what has always been a secret, or perceive that if it's shared out there, there will be compromise, and especially in the military, defense, and any other industry which actually considers data privacy as an issue, for either security or otherwise. So why is it essential for marketers to prioritize authenticity in their videos, and what steps should they take to ensure they truly resonate with potential buyers or potential customers?
Yeah, I'm gonna answer this a few different ways. The one is like, the people inside your business, your
Mm.
subject matter experts, right? Like, they are so valuable to help, like, showcase your message through a human lens or a point of view, and it's like, your employees are living unique experiences day to day, right? In like
Mm.
the challenges that their customers are up against, the challenges that the industry faces. And so having the capacity, and honestly a bit of courage, to just like show up and present these thoughtful sense of purposes, right? As the person on camera,
Yeah,
often just in this type of way, right, is really, really helpful from a brand, because
yeah,
it's like, it humanizes that brand. It shows that you are trustworthy people behind the brand's sort of like allure of logo and color palette, and
yeah.
so that posture and ability to show up on camera is a really important skill set, for
Mm.
for any professional, right? So And it's really valuable to a brand to have someone being able to do that, either in this way or, of course, like on a stage or something like that. So it's always like, from a professional POV, really important way to do that, right? But when it comes to like the production and writing and craft of like the sort of higher production value, right? There's a lot of like control within that creative. It's like, yeah, the creative development and expression is a bit not like freewheeling, but it's meant to be like a bit ambiguous because you're exploring, you're trying to be like, what is the right sort of avenue or path to take here creatively or visually or tonally, right? But once you arrive at that sort of milestone, there's a lot of control within the words and like how you're portraying an idea, how you're conveying an emotion or a sentiment, right? And so there's a lot of opportunity in there to, you're not trying to like skirt around anything that, but like you can sort of be matter of fact. Like if there's a, if you work in a business or in an industry that has tremendous NDA considerations, it's like, that's okay. Lean into that and
Yeah.
and describe it as it is. And like people will trust you for that. And like, oh, that makes sense, And so I think it's that combination, right? Of like putting your people, giving them the like empowering them and supporting them to put their ideas and intentions out there that align with you, because they're working on your, you're working with them and they're working with you, right? From an employer's standpoint.
Yeah.
And just being careful and how you show up for your audiences with the higher production value mid funnel types of content.
Interesting. Now this actually gives me some perspective here, given your experience in the industry. Assuming I'm a beginner of, I want to venture into this, video storytelling. Is there any tips to start with, or do I need also to work for someone to understand how it works, develop my acumen, understand all the loops, or should I just take my iPhone, go to the biggest company in the Valley or Boston or, Nairobi and say, you know what, I can tell your story better because, today we have so many influencers with over 1 million followers across different channels who actually have been building this just using their phone. We've seen also, big names in the industry struggle to even use these influencers to get their brand out there. How should that look like? Should I learn the ropes, maybe using a Pennant as an intern or an employee and then start my own company? Or should I go with what I have and start?
Yeah. Wow, that's a great question. It's almost like, what would I say to my past self today, right? I mean, as we spoke to as I was describing my experience, like a lot of it was just leaning in and doing it myself, like just like understanding the mechanics, right? Like, okay, like what does it mean from like lighting, right? Like there's so much you can do with lighting. It almost always starts there. It almost always starts there. And then it's like, all right, what about the movement of a camera, like the perspective of the lens, right? Like the perspective that I want the audience to have, like the feeling that evokes through that. And then of course, audio, it's like, yeah, of course there's like the spoken message, but then there's like the undercurrent of a music bed or the tone there, the sound design to like help bring the audience in, right? So it is tremendously complex, but like you kind of don't know that until you do it yourself, right? So it's like just diving in is kind of the best first thing I would say. But have the right system in place for yourself to make sure that you're learning along the way. You can't just like produce and walk away. It's like, well, you need to get feedback from people. You need to seek out those, like anything, you need to seek out those mentors that can help advise like how this could be improved. YouTube has a tremendous amount of resources on video and production and the sort of value behind that, right? And then storytelling too. That's its own beast in another way, right? So I think it's like that combination of your passion for the industry or the mission that you're aligned with, right? And then the courage to sort of show up and produce and iterate and learn and improve. And honestly, just watching yourself, you learn a lot about, just sort of like just your own posture and how you speak and present yourself, right? And so all of those things in repetition and consistency will get you where you need to go.
Interesting. So In fact, there's one thing I've been like asking myself, because on the side I'm a pro DJ and I know the power of music. Then I've been following, big production houses and how they use the background sound effects and whatnot. Does it mean if you're really a big production house, there's aspect of sound engineering, people who are thinking like, what goes well with this kind of story, and so on and so forth? And does that mean now, you even set the bar higher? Once you establish your acumen, then you need to also think about sound engineers, even artists to some extent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when I started out early, it was like, I want to film on my own stuff,
Yeah.
but then I need to edit it. So I was like, great. I learned sort of those two like key elements, but then it's like the pre-production of planning and like having a sound logistics plan and like
Mm,
lighting plan and just all of those, the strategy behind it all, right? It's like you start to
mm,
become a well-rounded like jack of all trades, right?
mm,
But eventually, and this is where I'm at in my career, it's like working with experts in each of those parts of the system. So like the director of photography, someone that's like really paying attention to the lighting and the mood and the capture of what we're trying to produce here, right?
yeah.
Working with that sound engineer, the person that can like really get the best tones out of whatever, if it's the voice, the voiceover, if it's the room that we're in, right? Like the sound design to
Yeah.
help like lift up the things that we're showing, right? Working with
Mm,
writers, like someone that are really, really excellent at their craft and choosing the right amount of words that can be compressed into a 60-second video is an incredible skill, right? And then
mm,
editors, right? Like someone that can take a mountain of footage and condense it down into a paced and compelling and engaging visual story, right? Is a really true art form. So yeah, it's one of those things where like if you do it all yourself, you learn and have a tremendous respect for all the different components of like how video is produced, and that's a
mm,
huge leg up, right? But then eventually you'll recognize in yourself like what are the things that sort of bring you the most energy, or the things that you're most sort of like passionate about, that the parts of the craft that you really are just excited about, frankly, right? And the
yeah.
others, you'll find those key players that are also really passionate about the things. While you're not passionate about them, they synergize and they connect together in a puzzle.
Mm.
So yeah.
Interesting. And this actually gives us a chance for you to give where if someone wanted to engage you, where do they find you, and what does
Yeah.
that mean? Do you
Yeah.
serve US businesses? Do you serve global businesses? If it's global businesses, how does that work? Do you come on the ground? How does it work?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, so from a like a business standpoint, so Pennant Video, yep, we're at Pennant.video or
Yeah,
PennantVideo.com.
yeah.
I should actually mention that while you're there, we have a ungated, um, we call it a playbook, but it's an ebook that supports a lot of what we talked about today. That's sort of that
Mm,
funnel focused um, playbook to help marketers better understand like what is the right type of video, where when building out a buyer's journey, right, and where to sort of put the most concerted
mm,
effort. So yeah, I encourage anyone to go to the website and can grab that ebook. It's just a PDF download. There's
mm,
also a little quiz in there, which is fun. It sort of like helps you understand like where you're at in your own sort of video marketing development journey. So that's
mm,
I've heard that's really helpful for folks. But yeah, so we are really focused on sectors that embody safety, security, and sustainability as their core missions. So what that
mm.
really what that means is like med tech, healthcare, life sciences, cybersecurity, data. Oh, nice, perfect. Yeah, so there's
Yeah.
that pop up that just came up. Um, where was I? Oh,
Just, just
green
go ahead.
tech, climate tech, right?
Yeah.
So all of that is where we really aspire to be, and that we know we can really support these really innovative and competitive industries, right? With the power of video.
Yeah.
Um, these are usually like high growth types of businesses, or like really mature enterprise, right? Like ones that need a lot of good video, or ones that need like very selective good video to help amplify their message, right? So that's where we exist. But then for me personally, right, like I'm very active on LinkedIn, like you said. So you can find me at Tim Bradley Pennant. Our our business has a LinkedIn too, but that's the primary channel for us. Yep. So there's a few examples of our work there. There's a lot more where that came from. We're actually, I'm like sort of chuckling because we're redoing our website right now. So in about a month's time, there'll be quite a bit more examples on there. But yeah, I'm excited for people to check out the work and if they want to learn more about just video marketing strategy at large. I'm on LinkedIn.
Nice. And this is good. Definitely looks like you have done some really, really good work. Maybe as we check out your work, as we conclude, we normally do proverbs, right? Your favorite proverbs. Then because you have good daddy jokes, you can give us one of those. And if you are an avid reader, which is the best book that you could read the rest of your life if you had to read just one book?
Oh wow, those are tough questions. I'm like looking on my bookshelf above me right now to see what I might say. A proverb, yeah, I'm not sure about a proverb specifically, but this
the microwave as you know it is history.
Well, a mentor of mine gave me this phrase: "You can do anything for 90 days," and that I found has been really helpful when I'm, as that sort of business entrepreneur, right? Is like, this feels really challenging to like onboard this new system or onboard this new or produce this new part of our system, right? And the mechanics of that is just like getting started is always challenging, right? But like the mentality of you can do anything for 90 days is just like been really helpful for me as like a bit of a mantra. And it's like, you're right. Like suddenly you're like an expert or at least on the path to being an expert after that 90 days. Right. So a lot of that just helps with helps you build a framework for consistency and just making sure it's sustainable and predictable. Right. So I think that would be it.
Yeah. Any daddy jokes?
Dad jokes. Oh man, I wish my son was here. He's really good at them. No, it's usually like the beauty of a dad joke is that it's often like in the moment of life. You see something and you riff on it, and it's so silly. So I have a 9-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son, and so it's
wow,
really living that dad life right now. It's fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, I mean that's really awesome, and thank you so much, Tim, for making time for this. It's just the beginning of the story. I'm sure we can loop in future and talk about more about what Pennant is doing. I like some of those innovation. Possibly, if you come or we meet in San Francisco, Nairobi, we can actually meet in person.
Likewise, if you come to the East Coast, if you come to Boston or New York, let me know.
Definitely, I normally come there. In fact, I was there last year. Nice. It's just that we're not connected. But without further ado, this is Impact Masters. We also offer software as a service, design as a service, developer relations and developer community and developer experience as a service. We are a community that is thriving, trying to connect the Silicon Valley and Nairobi, which is Silicon Savannah, with the intention of bringing all the innovators together. And we've started with the stories which we're telling for all the innovators around the world, with the intention of also building a hackerspace that people can join, creatives, engineers, creatives to be able to, fuse the energy as well as tell their story. So I work for Africa Stocking, which is a communication platform as a service, offering 2G solutions, that is SMS, USSD, voice, and now CAI, which is more or less a voice with AI in collaboration with our partners like Google and Mozilla. So you can check us out at africastocking.com and impactmasters.io. My name is Michael Kimathi. Until next time, enjoy. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.